G'day people, I'm Sharyn, welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about twin needles, and particularly the twin needle that perhaps came with your Janome machine if you got one of these multi-packs. There are some things that you can do with it, and there are some things that you definitely can't do with them. So let's get started. This is a multi-pack of needles from my Janome Memorycraft 15,000, which I've obviously never used because they're all sitting here as basically they came out of the box. There is a twin needle here and 4 different sizes of needle. Used to be that Janome would put different coloured ends to indicate different things about needles. Blue ones are for embroidery. They also work really well if you're sewing stretchy fabrics. They can be a lifesaver if you're having trouble with stitches being skipped. This is the twin needle that came in a multi-pack with my machine, and it's 2 millimeters. So if I put it on the number, it's exactly 2 millimeters. Your machine, if you've got a Janome machine that has got a marker for twin needles, knows exactly what size this is. And the properties of the machine that are set up for twin needling are set up for this particular needle or this particular size of needle. The size of these bits down here is the equivalent of the size of a needle when you're talking about how thick it is. So a denim needle is usually a size 16, 14 or 16. It's a pretty hefty needle. It's got a good strong piece down here on it. That's because it's going through heavyweight fabrics. If you've got a very light fabric, then you're using a skinnier needle down here, and it doesn't cope as well with heavy fabrics. One of the problems with a lot of twin needles is that those shanks down there, those shafts down there, are not very thick. They're often quite thin, and if you want to do twin needling on denim with them, you're probably going to break them. I can't use my needle threader to put this into the machine because the normal way that you use these is to put the needle down here and flip it around till the flat is at the back. But because this has got 2 shafts down here, it won't go in. So I can't use that end of it, but I still can use this end of it to do the threading. We'll start by removing the needle that's in here. I could have put a piece of fabric, in fact it's often a good idea to put a piece of fabric under here before you take a needle out, just so you don't let the needle drop into the machine. Alternatively, use the end of this. It's not a good idea to have your needle drop actually into the body of the machine. Here's my twin needle. I put it flat to back, same as we do for all of the needles. Goes up into the hole, and this one actually gives you some places where you can hold onto it, which makes it a little bit easier than some of the other needles. But I'm still going to tighten that with a screwdriver. Don't ever use the screwdriver to tighten that bolt if there is not a needle in there. You'll break a little piece inside of it. So screwdriver, yes, but only when there's actually a needle in there. I have threaded my machine down to this point with a blue thread, which is the one that I'm going to use to thread the left needle here. Now some of the machines have got 2 hooks. This one only has one on the right. You only go into it from the right hand side. Some of them have one that goes in from the left, in which case I would be doing things around the left, but I can't. With this one, it goes in there, so it's in the left pocket. The needle threader worked fine. It's just a bit hard to do around the camera, so I've got the blue one done now. This red thread that I've got here, I've still got my machine set to lock so that I can thread it. Down to here, I did it exactly the same way. It's all gone through exactly the same parts as it normally would. And now I'll just thread this other needle. So you should be able to see I've got a red and a blue thread in there now. It is hard to see, I know. If this red one ends up going over to that side, in fact we can pull it over there probably, It's not going to matter, it's not going to hurt anything. They were put through and threaded into the machine separately, so they shouldn't be all twisted up at the top. Let's have a look how they sew. Unlock my machine and put those threads through to the back. And I'm going to start with the machine just on a standard straight stitch. On the back, I've got a white thread in the bobbin. I'll try and get that to focus a bit better for you. And you can see that that white thread is actually picking up both the red and the blue threads. That's what it's supposed to do. If you had a wider gap between the needles, the white thread is much more obvious, but it's one thread picking up both needles. So the back of this is not the same as a cover stitch. You can use it like a cover stitch, which is what we do with hems on things when you have a wider needle or a wider set pair of needles, but it's not exactly the same. Now I'm going to tell the machine that I'm doing things with my twin needle. And in doing that, it just reduced the number of stitches I can use. So it took some out, because it knows if I try and do them, that these needles could potentially hit the hole. I'm going to go to a zigzag, and let's just see what it does with a zigzag on a twin needle. That's my lock stitch. Just a very, very basic zigzag with twin needling looks fantastic. Let's see what else I can do. On the utility stitch side of things, there are a few others I can try, and I'll just do a few of them. In all cases, when the machine knows it's got a twin needle in it, it will adjust the stitch width to make sure that these are not going to hit the edges. However, that only works for this size of twin needle. It doesn't work if you've put a twin needle in there that's got 6 millimeters between the needles. Only for these ones that come with the machines. This one's a satin stitch. My machine did some beautiful decorative stitches. It didn't allow me to do stitches that it knew would break that needle, but there's no way that the machine knew which twin needle I put in there. It's been set to think it's getting a 2mm wide twin needle. If I'd put a 6mm wide one and tried to do this, it would have broken. So only use the twin needle that comes with your machine or one the same size if you're going to try and use that twin needle function. If your machine doesn't have a twin needle function, you can certainly do these things, but what you need to do is to hand stitch or hand wind through an entire run of a stitch in order to make sure that it's not going to hit the sides. If it's going to hit the sides, you need to make it smaller. So what did we learn about twin needles today? Well, they can give a really, really interesting effect, and you can have a bit of fun with them. By putting two colours in the different parts of the needle, you get some really, really interesting things going on. Some of the satin stitches will work, some of the decorative stitches will work, but if you're going to use one of these in your machine and it doesn't have a twin needle button, make sure you hand wind through one full go of the stitch pattern to make sure that that is not going to hit the side, because it's a noise you don't want to hear in your sewing machine. There are some other things that we can do with this, and that'll come up in the future. See you next time.